everyday thing. It's an everyday thing. It's an everyday thing when you let your nuts hang. I'm ready to share my story about how my female pastor kissed me. And I pray that this sheds light on a very deep and dark issue that is happening in a lot of churches. So, back in 2025, last year, I had broke up with my ex fiance. And I think it was May when I broke up with him. And I broke up with him not because I wasn't in love or not because of him per se. It was just our relationship was just berated by this woman. This leader told us we were supposed to be together. And ironically, we actually fell in love and we were happy. We were the happiest couple there. We were always laughing, always joking. But just the constant like berating and verbal abuse and emotional abuse and mental abuse from this woman. She just berated us, constantly compared us, brought us down, talked bad about us, embarrassed us. And he got to a place where he stopped coming around. And so our relationship began to suffer and I couldn't do it anymore. And he was tired. I was tired. And to God be the glory, the breakup actually saved us. So we bless God for that. So I break up with him and I fall into a depression. I fall into a deep depression. I'm sad because um, I was I was going through a lot. I was running this woman's businesses. She had around 15 different businesses. I mean, this leader was saying God says start this, God says start that, God said do this, God said do that, and I became the one who had to run it all. And whenever I said to this woman, "Hey, I have a lot on my plate. I can't do it. Can't somebody else do it?" She was like, "No, I'll just do it myself then." And just all this pathetic manipulation and just it was just like it was grotesque and it was a lot. And I wasn't reading my Bible. So I believed for over 10 years that this was God telling me to serve this woman as an armor bearer and it was a lie. But I get to a place now where I just want to do what I thought I was supposed to do for God and go home and go to bed. And I just became like a robot. I just became numb and I became agreeable to this woman for the first time in over 9 years. I just fully submitted to the woman because prior to that, that woman and I went head to head about almost all the time because she would do things that I saw that were wrong. She would say things that I felt were wrong. I saw the way she treated people. And over the years, whenever I would say something or what have you, it was always, oh, you're prideful, the devil's using you. And the mental warfare, the emotional warfare was just crazy, man. And I noticed coming out of that, thank God for deliverance, that the devil used this woman to break down people, to get them to fully submit to her. And so now it's, I would say, August 2025. I'm just I'm just agreeable now. Why? Because I didn't want to hear her mouth. I didn't want to go through any extra arguments. I just wanted to do my job and go to bed. That's literally what I became. And so one day, the leader calls me over to her house for some reason. I had, as an armor bearer, whenever she called, we had to go running. So I'm over at her house. She gets out of the bed. All her lights are turned out. It's dark in her room. The curtains have not been opened yet, or yeah, the curtains hadn't been opened yet. And but there's enough light in the room, like from the day that's in there. And she's talking to me. And to be honest, I got to a place with the woman that I would hear, I just wouldn't listen. She was talking. I don't even know what she was talking about. But she got out the bed, and I went to go make up her bed because as armor bearers, we were required when she got out of bed to make her bed up for her, unless the rare occasion that she got the strength to make it up herself. And she's wearing a hooded robe. I can't remember which one. I can't remember if it was the gray one. It wasn't the cheetah one. Um, because I remember all her clothes. And she's talking to me. And she's like, "Oh, you're my baby, you're my daughter, and this or that." And she's like, talking to me like a little girl. And she walks up to me. She's walking up to me, and she puts her hand like this on my face. And she comes close to me. And first she kisses me on my forehead. And then she kisses me on my cheeks. Or she kisses me on my cheeks and my forehead. I forget which started which, but I remember the forehead and my cheeks. And then she pauses for a second, and then she comes and she kisses me slowly twice on my lips. And in that moment, I didn't know what to feel. You know, it's like I panicked on the inside because I'm like, what just happened? Like like what just happened? And she goes to, she's like, my grandmother, she used to do that to me. You're my daughter. Mothers do that to daughters. And she was my spiritual mother. This woman tried to adopt me over the years, and just that's why I've done a video about the abuse of spiritual parents. But I remember feeling like I couldn't process what just happened. I played it off with her because I was like, "Oh yeah, 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 of course, yeah." But inside, I was panicking because I was like, "Wait, what just happened here? Like, what just happened?" And I had never had a female kiss me in my life, never. And the only two people who ever kissed me was my ex fiance and a situationship back when I was younger. But apart from that, I had never had that before. And I felt dirty, and I felt grotesque, and I felt like I really need to seek Jesus. I really need to ask God to help me to come into my life, because what is my life becoming? And I sought God like I had never sought him before, man. And it was in September when I went on a dry fast. And the first question, because I had started to feel like things had started to like, this wasn't right. This wasn't right. Why are you talking like that? Like things, it was like God was opening my eyes. And I went on a dry fast. And I asked God three things. And the first thing I asked, I said, "God, what are you trying to show me about my church? Like, what are you saying to me? Because I keep feeling these off things and I don't understand what it is I'm feeling. What are you trying to talk to me? Is it you or is it the devil?" And not even 2 hours into going to sleep, God gave me the dream. And that was the beginning of me escaping this cult who professed Jesus had nothing to do with God. The place was a den of destruction. That woman's perverse and wicked. And the crazy part of all of this is back in 2016, when this woman said, "Oh, you're my daughter," God gave me a dream. And he said, "Lindsay, that woman is perverse and wicked." And I didn't listen to the warning. And it cost me 10 years. If you're in a situation where somebody claims to be your spiritual parent and they're doing anything sexual or intimate, even if they consider it minor towards you, you need to leave. You need to get out of there. That's not of God. That is not of God. And I'm sorry to whoever has been through this, but we need to start talking about these things, because it is intolerable and God's judgment has started in the body of Christ. So, this started in 2017, a few months after I had became an armor bearer in 2016. As an armor bearer, particularly one of her main armor bearers, we were required to. One of the things we had to do was to help assist her after ministerial events, and as the years went on, just anywhere she traveled. And one of the assistants was helping her when she was showering and after she got out of the shower, and of course before she got in the shower. And so my first occurrence was it was some type of ministerial event, and she was in the shower, and I'm in the hotel room with her. uh, One of the armor bearers walks out of the room, and the leader, she gets out of the shower, and I remember I turn my head, and there's like a dresser right here, and I turned my head because I didn't want to, she's naked. I don't want to look at her. And to be fair, I had never come. I had never even seen my own mother naked in all my years I lived with her. And so I turn my head, but then I hear her walking towards me. And she says something to me. I don't recall what that was, but I remember I turned to look at her, and she says to me, "I hope this is okay for you." And she's standing in front of me with just a towel, like not even a full body towel, just like maybe one of those hand drying towels, just barely covering the front of her breast and her private area. And I look at her, I was like, "Oh, yeah, sure." Because I didn't know what to say or what to comment after that. And I don't recall what else she said, but I just remember her turning around, walking back towards the shower, and me seeing her whole backside. From that place, she had brought me and other women who she called her daughters, to a fully naked spa. Now, by this time, in this back then, I had came from an impoverished situation. So this woman was basically paying for everything. And because I was one of her armor bearers, she just paid for me to go. And I just went, and I had to go. And I remember being uncomfortable back then with being around these daughters who I didn't know they were strangers to me, and we're all naked around each other. And she just conditioned us to believe that, hey, we're family. That's okay. This is normal. And I remember the comments she would make about my body and its appearance. And she would encourage me over the years to consider a BBL, you know, for my husband. And, it wasn't until I was under her where I even learned about plastic surgery and alterations that you can get to the body. And she would say those things to encourage, uh, that men like how a women look. And so we should, try to fit ourselves to look like that. And I remember this woman purchased all of my underclothes. Um, and it started off like subtly, even to the point where she would encourage, her daughters to sleep over at her house. So as time goes on, I remember one of the things that we had to do as armor bearers, like I said, was to assist her in her bathroom routine. And I initially watched as another armor bearer, after she got out of the shower, would lotion her back, help her put on her underclothes, her bra, her underwear. This woman was not disabled. She had no medical condition preventing her from getting herself dressed. Um, but that's how I was conditioned. So now it started to be I'm putting lotion on her back. Um, I'm in the bathroom at times with her while she's in the shower, handing her her toothbrush or a face rag or a bar of soap. Um, a couple times actually washing her body in the shower, like washing her back and stuff, and putting lotion on her feet, rubbing her feet, massaging her feet, helping her put on her underclothes. And then there was a time where it started to
Boy, y'all think men are manipulators. Woo wee. This cannot be real.
be, she would occur to sleep over with her daughters. And this grown woman, who had her own actual biological daughter, um, who she didn't have a good relationship with, according to her, to us. She now has all of these daughters from all over, and at times would have encouraged the women to come get in the bed with me. And she would purchase pajamas and things in access, dresses in access, like, and that's a whole different topic, but she just purchased things in excessively. And so she would, let the women wear her nighttime pajamas, and they would get in the bed with her and sleep in the bed with her. Um and we were taught that, it's innocent. That's what mothers and daughters do. And then um the next thing that happens when I got into my relationship with my now ex fiance, and the comments she would make, she was like, and she some of these things she said in front of people. One time, actually, she said this in front of a room full of people, including children. She says, if you two keep gaining weight, he's going to have a hard time, locating um, the place where people have intercourse, and would make comments about him sexually, me sexually. And then there was this time where him and she had given us permission and her blessing to start courting. She told us, when I was in that cult, which is advertised as a ministry of Christ, and it's not. She would tell people who their husband or wife was. It was all, most, if not all, of the relationships were arranged by this woman. She had us kiss in front of her, and initially it was like, okay. Mind you, we had made a commitment to each other that we didn't want to kiss until we got married. But we were like, oh, okay, and so we, quick kiss, this or that. And then she was like, no, you guys need to do it again. And so she was like, yeah, you guys are too fast. She was like, just relax. And then we did it. And then she was like, no, 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 you need to do it again. She had to stand up. And she's literally telling us how to kiss each other and just constantly coaching us through it, and, go slower and this or that. And I wasn't the only couple she had done that to. And so then the last encounter, of course, was her kissing me on my lips. And the devil will start subtly, and people will start in subtle things, and it will grow to a grotesque level. But thank God that it didn't grow further than what it had already grew. And so that's my story about sexual abuse. So I don't believe it's anybody's intention ever to join a cult. I believe most people who end up in a cult, they believe that the organization that they joined was what they represented. In my case, I had joined a church who professed Jesus Christ as Lord, where the pastor who's female um, said she sat at God's feet and used to sleep on her floor because God told her to sleep on the floor to break her, Ezekiel, I think, or Elijah, Ezekiel, and just would say all of these things. And the woman had the ability to look in people's homes while they're on the phone with her and tell them where things are at in their house. And this woman had the ability to prophesy, which I now know this woman is an occult witch. She practiced divination and she consulted familiar spirits. But back then, I didn't know any better because I was broken. Before I had met this woman, I grew up in a broken childhood. People in school probably would never know that my family went through several evictions. There were days we didn't have food in the house to eat. There were times I'd have lunch money. There were times um, uh, police were in and out of our house. After a major car accident in 1996, they had to cut us out of the car. My mother and father both suffered severe spinal injuries. My mother's was the worst, and she lived in chronic pain until she passed away in 2021. And she became a shell of herself. And I know my mother loved us, but she became depressed. My father was angry, um, controlling a bit, but my father, he was a good man, just angry, bitter, made some poor decisions. But my parents did the best they could for us. So I have to say that. So long story short, um, I had given my life to Christ in 2015, and God told me to leave from under my parents' care, um, because at that time we were homeless for 3 years. We were living in a hotel, living in the Red Roof Inn, actually, on Willowbrook, Illinois, on Kingery Highway. And God blessed me to have my own place, and I'm serving Jesus, and I'm in love with Him, and I'm very on fire for Him. But I was still broken, and I was unhealed, and I knew nothing about therapy outside of the stigma that it's only for people with mental health issues, which is a lie, you guys. It's a bold-faced lie. And I just didn't have the tools. So a woman introduces me to this woman. This woman ran an online ministry to this day. No church, no brick and mortar building, just an online ministry. And she all these giftings and people were fawning over her and all this stuff. And she prophesied to me one day, and I'm drawn in to her ability to speak things about my life that no one else knew. And so I reach out to her and et cetera, et cetera. And one day she invites me to a Periscope, and she says to me, she says, I feel in my spirit that you're my daughter. And here I go. Oh my gosh, God has given me another mom who will love me, who my mother couldn't give me the love I wanted, so she can give it to me. And she had called me Lindsay Grace. My name is not Lindsay Grace, my name is Lindsay Rochelle. But back then, I was running from my identity. I wanted to run away from all of my brokenness, which is another video I'm going to make to let people know that all my platforms, my name is going to be changed to my actual name, because God reminded me the other day. He said, Lindsay, that's not your name. And so this woman tells me I'm her daughter. And I get a dream from God, and God shows me this woman, and she looks perverse and Jezebelic. God says to me, He says, that woman is perverse and she's wicked. And I thought it was the devil, and I rebuked it. I rebuked the warning from the Lord. And eventually I joined under this ministry. And this woman becomes my pastor. And the first day I joined, this woman personally calls me and says, God told me to make you my armor bearer. Not an armor bearer assistant, because at that time, previously, you had to become an assistant first and then work your way up because it was such a prestigious role. But no, she said, God said, you're going to be my personal armor bearer, which I know now meant slave. And this woman gloated to strangers that she had did all these things for me, because when I moved from Illinois to Texas to now in the vicinity where this leader is, and I in the East Coast, and the when I came, I had maybe 5 pairs of underwear, maybe 3 pairs of socks, a set of maybe 3 clothes to change in and out of, and wasn't really eating, so I was very skinny. And she purchases me a whole new wardrobe and all my shoes and underwear and bras and all these things, and would tell people, strangers, when she came to me, she didn't have nothing. I bought her, I taught her, I was getting buying all, everybody who came there were came from some type of brokenness, and or have or had, for the people who left, some sort of mental illness. How do you know that, Lindsay? Two armor bearers, who may be still armor bearing that woman today, under her leadership, attempted to unalive themselves. One of them was in her house, and the other one drove all the way to Rhode Island to unalive herself off a bridge. And this woman, we were beaten into submission. This woman would tell people that if you didn't do what God said you're going to do, like, he was going to unalive you. I've posted recordings, if you go through my stories, things this woman has said, where she was like, um, somebody who left this place, they're going to be unalived. And one of the people who passed away in that place, she had the way the man passed away was the way that she had prophesied, which I know was witchcraft, but that's a different video for a different day. And that's how I ended up in a cult, because I was broken, unhealed, easily deceived, easily bamboozled, easily being able to take advantage of.
All right, what to do, everyday people, man? It's your boy PJ. Today we back with another lit video. That was almost good. But you know what? I just like, if you gonna leave a piece of fish and a chicken in the refrigerator for so long, so long, so long, so long, because that's what she did. She left everything. She would not touch anything. She did whatever this woman said. It's so crazy. It's so crazy. I don't know. I've never been in this situation. But all I want to say is, man, do not give up on God just because people are weak in flesh and they are terrible persons and they're terrible human beings. Because if you give up on God, then you give up on everything. But it's so many people who don't believe in God because some stupid person. You don't have to believe in God. You have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in your faith. You have to believe in and whatever eternity that your life will go on. Mine's, I decide to believe in God. But people like this, there's always gonna be people like this in a church, around the church, preying on different women and kids and stuff like that. It's weird, but listen, don't get flown out anywhere and expect not to give up no. I'm just saying. I'm not saying she had to, but the lady who flew her out there, the pastor, She wanted a piece. It is what it is. Let me know what y'all think about it in the comment section.